We have some massive AI updates. GPT 5.6 is about to open up for public use, and there is a shocking detail about its context window. Next, Google is about to hit back hard with a massive architecture change in Gemini 3.5 Pro, aimed squarely at Fable 5 and GPT 5.6. And Deepseek just introduced something called DSpark, which drastically cuts the cost of running their most capable models, including V4 Flash and V4 Pro. Now, all these updates have a profound impact on how we access and utilize the top-notch AI in our daily use. So, without any delay, let's get straight into it. Let us start with the people's favorite, OpenAI. Now, there are two things happening here, and the second one is an absolute shocker for a lot of people who follow this closely. First, the GPT 5.6 public release signals. In a highly unusual move, OpenAI suddenly slashed the price of ChatGPT Plus by 50%, offering it at $10 a month for the first 3 months. Several people covering this closely see that discount as a deliberate subscriber acquisition move, timed right before a major frontier model drop. On top of that, limited access testing has already started for select enterprise developers and approved US organizations, and model identifiers for the Sol architecture have been showing up on developer portals. That kind of backend activity usually means the infrastructure is staged for a public rollout, and the timing lines up closely with when current Claude promotional pricing cycles are ending. So the release itself looks imminent, but here is the part that actually stopped people mid-scroll. While the rest of the industry has been racing toward 1 million and 2 million token context windows, a leaked breakdown of an open web UI repository commit surfaced details about how the Sol model architecture actually handles context internally. And the number is small. Reports point to a context window sitting around 27,000 active tokens for reasoning loops in limited testing, even though raw processing boundaries were cited closer to 272,000. Either way, that is a fraction of what Fable 5 and Gemini offer. Now, here is why this might actually be intentional rather than a limitation. The explanation making the rounds is that OpenAI is leaning hard into the codex and reasoning architecture specifically. Instead of letting the model lazily browse across a massive multi-million token history the way Gemini does, Sol is designed to pour its compute into intense, deep, step-by-step reasoning. Tight logical chains, advanced coding scripts, physics generation, that kind of thing. A smaller active window keeps inference fast and reduces the chance of the model losing focus or hallucinating during intricate multi-step tasks. In simple terms, Sol might be trading context size for reasoning depth and speed on purpose. Whether that trade is smart depends entirely on the kind of work we do. This we shall close in the honest section a bit later in the video. But these GPT updates become a lot more interesting once we see what Google is about to bring to the table. And it is up next. As you move to the most crucial portion of the video, do tell me, which AI is your absolute favorite? Plus, hit that like button and press that lonely subscribe button as well. Now, this update is really crucial for anyone using top-of-the-line AI models. Google DeepMind has been through real internal turbulence. Researchers from the Gemini 2.0 era left, and some recent checkpoints actually underperformed their own predecessors, which is not a good look for a frontier lab. But leaks suggest Google is preparing a serious comeback with Gemini 3.5 Pro, and the scale of the pivot is what makes this interesting. According to reporting on the leaks, Google has completely scrapped the older Gemini 2.5 Pro base model it originally planned to keep iterating on, and instead spent the extra time building an entirely new, fresh, pre-trained base from scratch. That is a significant decision. Rebuilding the foundation rather than patching the old one suggests Google is trying to make a real leap rather than an incremental update. Model slugs spotted inside Google Cloud servers, combined with these leaks, pushed prediction markets to price in a tentative July 17th public release date at around 62% probability. That is not certain, but it is a meaningfully high number for something this specific. On specs, the model is expected to carry a 2 million token context window, extending Google's lead as the industry standard for massive code bases and long documents. There is also a new specialized reasoning layer called Deepseek, built specifically for advanced multi-step logic, intense math, and coding constraints. And there is a hard focus on agentic frameworks, meaning tool use, multi-turn execution, and autonomous workflow loops. Now, private evaluation circles are reportedly showing strong margins over Fable 5 in early testing, but this is unverified and should be treated with real caution. What is not unverified is the output quality, because several leaked generations have already surfaced. In SVG generation specifically, which has always been a Gemini strength, the leaked checkpoints are producing remarkably clean, polished vector visuals. Things like a fully detailed isometric card swiping machine, complete with swipe animation and received output, and richly shaded card layouts. Compared side by side against Fable 5's SVG output, the Gemini generations look cleaner and more visually confident. In 3D scene generation, a leaked prompt asking for a floating steampunk island produced a genuinely striking result. Detailed structures, strong atmospheric lighting, and a composition that holds together as a complete scene. And in a one-shot HTML generation test, the model wrote out a functional 3D city runner game, complete with traffic signals, environmental objects, and moving characters, all from a single prompt. If Gemini 3.5 Pro ships with pricing that matches this quality, it could genuinely take the crown for front-end design and visual coding taste specifically, ahead of both Fable 5 and GLM 5.2 in that narrow but important category. And while everyone was watching for the Pro model, a second, smaller leak appeared almost quietly. A new lightweight flash checkpoint has been spotted running A/B tests inside the Arena benchmarking platform, appearing under labels like 3 Flash, with speculation that it is the foundation for what eventually ships as Gemini 4 Flash or possibly Gemini 3.6 Flash. Multiple unreleased Gemini variants appear to be running in Arena simultaneously right now, so testers are still sorting out exactly which checkpoint is which. What is clear is the output quality. On SVG tasks, this new flash checkpoint has actually outperformed the leaked Gemini 3.5 Pro checkpoint in some head-to-head comparisons, which is a striking result for a model positioned as the fast, affordable tier. And in one-shot HTML generation, it wrote out roughly 800 lines of code to build a working Subway Surfer-style runner game, complete with environment assets and functioning traffic signals. The positioning here matters. This model looks aimed squarely at the rate limit frustration that has plagued heavy, expensive models like Fable 5. Fast, cheap, massive throughput for people who need volume more than raw peak intelligence. So Google is coming back with a real architectural swing on the high end and a genuinely impressive cheap option on the low end. Which brings us to the third story, because while OpenAI and Google are racing on capability, Deepseek just made a move that is not about intelligence at all. And this certainly is the update most people are going to underestimate. In one of the most interesting moves in the entire AI industry, Deepseek just deployed something called DSpark under live traffic, and the headline numbers are stunning. It increases per user response speed by 60 to 85% on Deepseek V4 Flash and 57 to 78% on V4 Pro. A smarter model is genuinely useless if it is too slow or too expensive to actually serve at scale, and that is exactly the problem DSpark is built to solve. Here is the mechanism, and it is a genuinely clever piece of engineering. Instead of the main model writing an answer one token at a time, a smaller helper model rapidly drafts a block of text, and the large model verifies and approves that entire block in a single pass. If the draft is good, the system moves forward fast. If part of it is wrong, the big model corrects from that point. The problem with older versions of this idea was something called suffix decay, where the end of a multi-token draft would start falling apart because the helper model was guessing several positions at once without knowing what the earlier guesses actually became. DSpark fixes this with a correction layer called a Markov head, which adds just enough sequence awareness to keep the draft coherent without losing the speed advantage. And then there is the part that actually makes this feel like real infrastructure rather than a lab trick: confidence scheduled verification. DSpark scores every drafted token on how likely it is to survive the big model's check, and then decides how much of the draft is actually worth checking based on how busy the system is right now. When traffic is light, it checks longer drafts to maximize speed. When traffic spikes, it gets more selective, trimming weaker guesses before they waste GPU capacity. That is the system actively managing itself under real load, not just performing well in a clean benchmark. The live traffic results back this up. At a stricter throughput target, DSpark showed throughput improvements ranging from roughly 51% up to several times the baseline capacity, depending on the target speed and model variant. In simple terms, the same hardware can now serve meaningfully more users at the same quality. and Deepseek open sourced the whole approach as part of a broader stack called Deepseek, released on GitHub and Hugging Face, done in collaboration with Peking University. This is not a tiny plug-and-play toy. Even a modest setup requires real infrastructure, but it is available for anyone to build on. The bigger picture here is important. Because of hardware constraints and export restrictions, Chinese AI labs are increasingly competing on inference efficiency rather than just raw model size. DeepSeek is not alone in this. Other major Chinese companies have also pointed to inference efficiency as the real bottleneck for large-scale deployment on more limited hardware. So the race is no longer just about who has the smartest model. It is about who can serve that intelligence cheaply, quickly, and reliably to millions of people at once. So where do we land across all three stories? Let's have a look at the honest section to find the answers. Before we wrap up, there are a few things worth being direct about. On GPT 5.6's context window, the 27K figure comes from a leaked repository commit, not an OpenAI announcement. Treat it as a real signal worth taking seriously, but not a confirmed final spec. If it holds, the smaller window for deeper reasoning trade-off is a genuinely interesting design choice, but it also means Sol may struggle on the largest, most sprawling code bases compared to Fable 5 or Gemini. On Gemini 3.5 Pro, the July 17th date is a prediction market estimate sitting at 62%, not a Google confirmation. And the claim that private evaluations show it beating Fable 5 is explicitly unverified, coming from unnamed testing circles. The leaked SVG and 3D outputs are genuinely impressive and worth taking seriously as evidence of real progress, but a handful of cherry-picked demos are not the same as a full independent benchmark suite. On the Gemini 4 Flash or 3.6 Flash checkpoint, multiple unreleased variants appear to be running in Arena simultaneously right now, and even the people closely tracking this are not entirely sure which checkpoint is which yet. The name is genuinely unsettled. On Deepseek DSpark, the improvement is real and independently explainable through the mechanism described, and it has been deployed under live traffic, which is a stronger form of evidence than a lab demo. But it is worth remembering this is an efficiency and cost upgrade, not a capability upgrade. V4 did not get smarter this week. It got cheaper and faster to run, which matters enormously for anyone building products at scale, but it does not change how DeepSeek stacks up against Fable 5 or GPT 5.6 on raw intelligence. The pattern across all three stories is the same one we keep running into. Leaked commits, spotted slugs, and unverified private evaluations are how we learn about the next generation of AI now, well before any official announcement. That is useful information, but it always deserves the caveat that comes with it. So here we are with an exciting week in AI. By the way, which one of these updates you think is going to affect us the most, and why? Plus, which is your absolute favorite AI? Share your opinion in the comments. Subscribe to my channel as I cover all the news and updates on all these AI models, be it from Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, or the Chinese ones. I'll see you in the next one.